You have bewitched us! This is the work of sorcerers! Witness, people, this is proof that he is a sorcerer, just as we told you!
However, we may consider what lies beyond our existing agreements, and we ask you to excuse us from what we cannot fulfill.
If we support you and protect you against all the Arabs, will leadership belong to us after you?
The Council has spoken. Our path is clear. We must unite the tribes before the winter solstice.
They are searching for us.
Be still. Allah is with us.
As news of the night journey and ascension spread through Mecca, the believers accepted it without hesitation. The first among them was Abu Bakr,
If he says it, then it is true.
whose unwavering faith earned him the title As-Siddiq, the truthful. The leaders of Quraysh, however, mocked the account and gathered around the Kaaba, demanding more than a story. They challenged him to produce a sign before their very eyes, but his answer remained unwavering. He claimed no power of his own. He was only God's servant, and every sign belonged to God alone, God. Few later, before their very eyes, God showed them a sign that would be remembered throughout history. A heavy silence fell over the crowd as every eye turned toward the sky, their faces filled with challenge, anticipation, and curiosity. He simply called upon them to witness it for themselves. Then, God showed them the very sign they had demanded. The moon split before their eyes. Their expressions turned to shock and disbelief, yet most of them refused to believe and declared, "This is nothing but passing magic."
You have bewitched us! This is the work of sorcerers! Witness, people, this is proof that he is a sorcerer, just as we told you!
The miracle had left the chiefs of Quraysh stunned, yet admitting the truth would mean surrendering everything they had fought to protect. So they gathered once more and agreed on a single claim. This is nothing but passing magic. Quraysh quickly turned the miracle into a propaganda campaign. As pilgrims approached Mecca, they warned every visitor not to listen to Muhammad. Year after year, the pilgrimage season brought tribes from every corner of Arabia. And with every caravan came another opportunity to carry God's message beyond the walls of Mecca. From tent to tent and from tribe to tribe, he carried the same call, inviting every heart to the worship of the one God. The Prophet Muhammad approached Banu Shayban, one of the strongest and most influential tribes in Arabia. He invited them to worship the one God and asked them to protect and support his mission against those who sought to stop it. He told them that God's word would one day unite believers, Arabs and non-Arabs alike, under one banner, the banner of monotheism. Those who stood with this message would earn the honor of being among its very first supporters.
We have listened to your words, and we find your message honorable. But we are a people who live between two powerful lands. We have agreements with the Persian Empire, and we cannot break the commitments we have made. However, we may consider what lies beyond our existing agreements, and we ask you to excuse us from what we cannot fulfill.
By every human measure, this was the opportunity the Prophet Muhammad had been searching for. He desperately needed a powerful tribe to protect him from the persecution of Quraysh. Banu Shayban possessed the strength, the influence, and the honor to do so. Accepting their offer would have seemed the wisest political choice. But the Prophet was not seeking a kingdom built by human calculation. He was carrying a message entrusted to him by Allah. The religion of Allah could not be upheld by conditions, nor could its support be divided according to worldly interests. Faith demanded complete submission to the will of Allah. Confident that victory belongs to Allah alone, the Prophet declined every compromise and continued his search for hearts that would embrace the truth without reservation. Among the tribes who gathered during the pilgrimage season were Banu Amir, one of the most respected and influential tribes of Arabia. Their strength, numbers, and position among the Arabs made them a tribe whose support could change the future of any alliance. The Prophet invited them to worship Allah alone and asked them to support the message of Islam. He sought their protection, not for worldly power, but so the message of Allah could reach the people. But they viewed the matter through the eyes of tribal leadership and asked about their share in authority after him. Among the tribes of Arabia stood Banu Amir, known for their strength, influence, and honored position among the Arabs.
If we support you and protect you against all the Arabs, will leadership belong to us after you?
He refused every condition that limited the message, trusting that victory would come only from Allah. For years, the Prophet called the tribes of Arabia to Allah. Some rejected his call, while others offered support with conditions. Yet nothing weakened his faith. He remained certain that Allah's message would one day reach the world. During one pilgrimage season, 6 men from Yathrib arrived in Mecca, unaware that their journey was about to change history. The Prophet introduced himself and invited them to worship Allah alone and accept his final revelation. As they listened, they remembered the warnings they had long heard from the Jewish tribes living in Yathrib. The Jews had often spoken of a prophet who would soon appear. Now they feared they had found him before anyone else. Each man reflected in silence. The words they had just heard echoed alongside years of expectation until certainty began to replace doubt. This is the very prophet the Jewish tribes warned us about. Let us not allow them to reach him before we do. With these 6 believers, Allah opened the door that would soon transform Yathrib into the home of Islam. North of Mecca lay Yathrib, a fertile oasis where farming shaped daily life and ancient rivalries shaped its people. Its 2 largest Arab tribes, Aws and Khazraj, had endured generations of conflict, while neighboring Jewish tribes spoke of a prophet yet to come. Behind its peaceful oasis, old rivalries still divided the people, leaving Yathrib longing for lasting peace. For years, many had heard that a prophet would one day appear, though no one knew when that day would come. The 6 believers returned to Yathrib, carrying a message that would quietly begin changing hearts across the oasis. News of their meeting in Mecca spread quietly through Yathrib. Soon people across the oasis were speaking of the man who called them to worship Allah alone. As the months passed, the message continued to spread quietly across Yathrib. When the next pilgrimage season arrived, more believers were ready to return to Mecca. 1 year later, 12 believers left Yathrib for Mecca, carrying stronger faith and greater hope than before. Once again, the pilgrimage brought them to Mecca, but this journey had a different purpose. Under the quiet darkness of Aqaba, the Prophet met the men of Yathrib once again, as a new hope began to emerge. At Al-Aqaba, they pledged to worship Allah alone, to live by righteousness, and to remain faithful to the path of truth. To guide the growing believers, the Prophet sent Mus'ab ibn Umair to Yathrib, carrying the Quran and teaching the foundations of the faith. Patiently and quietly, Mus'ab taught the Quran, and more hearts in Yathrib embraced the message with each passing day. Mus'ab quietly taught the Quran, and the message continued to reach new families across Yathrib. Among the respected leaders of Yathrib was Usaid ibn Khudayr, a man whose influence reached every household of his tribe. Sa'd ibn Mu'ad, the respected chief of Banu Abd al-Ashhal, grew concerned by the new message spreading through his people. He asked Usaid ibn Khudayr to investigate the visitors. Usaid approached determined to confront the gathering, but Mus'ab welcomed him with calm words and invited him to listen first. As the Quran was recited, anger gave way to reflection, and reflection opened the door to faith. Usaid accepted Islam, becoming one of the first respected leaders in Yathrib to embrace the new faith.
Will you not sit down and listen?
Determined to judge the matter for himself, Sa'd chose to hear the message before passing judgment. The words of the Quran reached Sa'd's heart, replacing certainty in old beliefs with certainty in Allah. Sa'd returned to his people with a conviction that would soon transform his entire tribe. Many families of Banu Abd al-Ashhal accepted Islam, and the message spread with remarkable speed. Before long, the message had reached every quarter of Yathrib, preparing the city for a new chapter in history. The following year, more than 70 believers from Yathrib arrived in Mecca, carrying a hope greater than ever before. Late that night, they gathered quietly at Al-Aqaba, keeping their meeting hidden from Quraysh. The Prophet called them to remain faithful to Allah and to protect the message as they would protect their own families. That night they pledged their loyalty, their protection and their lives in the service of Allah's message. The path was now open. Soon the believers would leave Mecca and build the first Muslim community in Yathrib. By morning, word of the secret meeting had reached Quraysh. They realized the message had found powerful supporters beyond Mecca. Quraysh hurried after the caravan, but the believers from Yathrib had already begun their journey home. The leaders of Quraysh gathered in Dar al-Nadwa, convinced that decisive action could no longer be delayed.
The decision before us carries the weight of generations. We must choose wisely, for the future of our people hangs in the balance.
The council has spoken. Our path is clear. We must unite the tribes before the winter solstice.
They agreed on a single plan, to end the Prophet's mission by taking his life before he could leave Mecca. While Quraysh prepared their plan, Allah had already prepared the path to a new beginning. After the pledge at Al-Aqaba, the Prophet instructed his followers to leave for Yathrib, where they would find safety and support. One by one, the believers quietly left Mecca for Yathrib, leaving behind their homes and possessions, trusting completely in Allah's promise. While most believers departed in secret, Umar ibn al-Khattab left Mecca openly, placing his complete trust in Allah and fearing no one but him. In Yathrib, the migrants found a new home. The people of the oasis welcomed them with faith, generosity, and a bond stronger than blood. As the believers reached safety in Yathrib, the Prophet began preparing for his own journey, awaiting Allah's permission to leave Mecca. Quraysh's leaders gathered and agreed on a final plan. A man from every major clan would surround Muhammad's house and strike together, so that responsibility for his death would be shared among the tribes, leaving Banu Hashim unable to seek revenge against them all. Before leaving Mecca, the Prophet entrusted Ali ibn Abi Talib with returning every item left in his care, proving that even his enemies trusted his honesty until the very end. That night, Quraysh surrounded the Prophet's house waiting to stop his departure, but Allah protected his messenger, and he left unseen by those who stood outside. Abu Bakr joined the Prophet for the journey ahead. Together they left Mecca quietly, taking a different path south toward the Cave of Thawr. For 3 days they remained hidden inside the Cave of Thawr, patiently waiting as the search parties combed the surrounding mountains. Quraysh's search parties combed every path across Jabal Thawr, convinced the fugitives could not be far away. Hidden inside the cave, they listened as the voices of the searchers drew near. Yet by God's protection, they remained unseen.
They are searching for us.
Be still. Allah is with us.
Once the search had subsided and the danger had passed, they quietly left the cave and continued their journey toward their destination. Allah enabled his messenger Muhammad to leave Mecca with Abu Bakr. They first traveled south through hidden desert paths to avoid the Quraysh pursuers, but Suraka ibn Malik found their trail, hoping to claim the reward of 100 camels. But the moment he reached them, everything changed. Instead of seizing them, he asked, "Are you Muhammad, the man Quraysh is searching for? By Allah, from the moment I set out after you, my horse stumbled and threw me to the ground again and again, something it had never done before. Then I knew that Allah was protecting you, and that no one could reach you unless he allowed it. By the time I stood before you, the desire to capture you had already left my heart. If I cannot stand beside you today, then at least I will not stand against you. So grant me a written pledge of safety to keep with me until the day Allah grants you victory over your people." So Muhammad granted him a written pledge of safety. Then he gave him a promise that seemed impossible at the time. "How will you be when you wear the bracelets of Khosrow?" Khosrow was then the mighty emperor of Persia, feared throughout Arabia and beyond. Yet years later, after the Persian Empire had fallen, that remarkable promise was fulfilled exactly as Muhammad had foretold. After the danger had passed, they resumed their journey across the vast desert, following a hidden path toward Yathrib, where a new chapter of history awaited them. After days across the desert, the landscape began to change. The palm groves of Yathrib appeared on the horizon, the city that would become the new home of the believers and the center of a new era. At last the travelers reached Kibar, where the believers of Yathrib welcomed them with hearts filled with joy. After years of hardship, the message had found a place where it could grow in peace. The Hijrah was more than a journey from one land to another. It was the turning point that transformed a persecuted community into a people with a home and a future. In Yathrib, a new chapter was about to begin, a chapter that would change the course of history forever.